Hello, welcome back to another CSRM podcast, and I am joined today by a longtime friend and sports minister, Weston Bryant. Weston, welcome to CSRM's podcast.
Thanks, Greg. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited because you have been in the trenches, so to speak, through the years. You have been where most of the people that tune into this have been or are today. And yet you've had a call in your life in a little different direction, but still wanting really much to empower the local church sports rec fitness person. And so just tell us right now what's your title or what's your ministry? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, so I founded a ministry called Commission Leadership, and basically I'm a discipleship coach. And my passion is really, helping people fulfill the Great Commission. And I'm sure that you and I will touch a little bit on what coaching is as we go.
Absolutely. And we're very privileged to announce that you have actually officially become a CSRM associate staff member. And that comes with all of the non-payment that you'll get. Associate staff, we have a number of associate staff, and they basically are volunteers for CSRM, but that's an official capacity, and you've just joined here right in the middle of all this COVID crisis. And we need to tell our people that are listening, we're doing this COVID crisis, videoing, recording via the internet, and so it's probably not up to our best standards. We apologize for that, but everybody understands what's going on. We're not in our studio, you can tell that. We have a state-of-the-art studio normally that we do a lot of these recordings in, but today we're here, and Weston has joined us. It's with the CSRM staff, and in a role and a capacity that we'll get into a little bit later, but helping the sports minister with some of these things that maybe you've heard about but never really knew about spiritual direction and life coaching and ministry mentoring and some of those things that we'll talk about. But Weston, let's get your journey to help us understand where you are today. Help us understand where you've been and where you've come from. What's your background, born and raised? What was your sports background? And just anything. Get us started.
Yeah, so I was an avid baseball player growing up. 3 years varsity shortstop in high school, went on to college. Played 1 year at the D2 level, but I love to tell people that I sat the bench, realized how good I wasn't, and that gave me some good perspective on things. And really, I had no intention of going into vocational ministry. I got my degree in sport management, wanted to work in professional baseball, and just slowly God kind of chipped away at that and showed me he had different plans. And what I thought would be a career with, YMCA, local parks and rec, actually ended up working with a couple of different churches in sports ministry, and really felt called to that, to my surprise, but also my joy and my delight. And after 13 years in sports ministry, about midway through that journey, had developed a passion for discipleship and leadership development, and really felt the Lord just pulling me in a slightly different direction, basically saying, I want you to take what you're doing in sports ministry, but serve a broader audience. And over time, just led me to learn about coaching, to start working with a coach myself and experiencing the benefits of having someone who serves as a guide, just helping you see new opportunities in front of you and deciding what you're going to do with those opportunities. And all that to say, as of last October, took the leap of faith, with the support of my wife. I tell people all the time, she is the gift of faith, and she really encouraged me to move forward with this. And it's been one of the hardest things I've done, but I have just gained so much joy serving pastors and other leaders in the church, and right where God wants me to be.
So tell us a little bit about your sports ministry background and maybe some of the churches you worked with. I know you said you worked for the YMCA, and that's a great place. I worked for many, many years on the YMCA staff prior to my coming on a local church staff. But tell us a little bit about that, and maybe also who were some of the people that were influential in your life that may have been an unofficial coach or mentor, some of those people who have influenced you moving forward, and how that helped shape you and helped you do your ministry better. And by the way, people, when Weston is using the word coach, make sure you understand in which area that he's using it in. Sometimes it would be as a coach of a team, but most of the time in this presentation is going to be a coach for life or for living or for spiritual matters. So when he says coach, don't misinterpret that. But Weston, give us your sports ministry background and maybe who those influencers were for you.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. It's funny. I never actually worked for the YMCA. I probably applied to about 30 locations and couldn't get one interview at the time. Yeah, it was the classic, you need experience. But
how do you get it?
Yeah, exactly. And so long story short, I had reached out to a former youth pastor. He had some things going on in his life, and I just wanted to congratulate him on and celebrate with. And during our conversation, he had asked me if I had ever considered sports ministry. And at the time, I had never heard of it, and was really intrigued by that, and learned that there was actually a church about 20 minutes from my hometown that had a pretty large sports ministry. And so I called their sports director, Jason Probst, and asked if they had any internships. And he actually created one pretty much right there, which was interesting to me. But I gleaned so much from him. And one of the things that Jason really challenged me with early on was you need to use this time as an intern to discern if God is calling you into vocational ministry. And he said, if not, there's no shame in that. And by all means, take what you're learning and apply it in that Parks and Rec context or that YMCA context. He said, but if you try to work for a church and you don't have that call, it's going to be really, really challenging. And I'm so thankful he challenged me to wrestle with that. And in the course of those 8 months or so, to my surprise, really did feel the Lord calling me into vocational ministry.
And where was that at?
Yeah, so I served at two churches, Southport Presbyterian on the south side of Indianapolis, and then Greenwood Christian Church in Greenwood, Indiana. I was about 3 years at Southport Pres, and then 9 years at Greenwood Christian. And it's interesting because with Southport Pres, I made the mistake of trying to do everything by myself. I really didn't raise up leaders or think big picture. I was just trying to keep my head above water, And then when I got to Greenwood Christian Church, the senior pastor there, Matt Giebler, I'm so thankful, just really challenged me early on to put together a leadership team and start empowering people. And that same time, I heard a sermon by Francis Chan on the Great Commission. And it just, the Lord just tugged at my heart and was like, it's good that you're personally, reaching out to the lost and trying to help people grow in their faith. But if you're going to lead this ministry, you really need to be a equipper of ministers, so to speak. And so that's how I viewed my coaches, is you guys are ministers for the gospel, and whatever I can do to serve you and empower you to lead and love people like Jesus, that's what I'm here to do.
In CSRM, we call that that we are raising up the next generation, and we are reproducing reproducers. And
exactly.
I hear that's what you're saying. Well, Jason Probst, a lot of praise for that guy. He was on the CSRM board for many years and has just done some wonderful ministry. And to his benefit, to I think our loss, He's moved out of the sports ministry role now, but I know he's influenced a lot of people, including myself. So we have a lot of praise for Jason.
Yeah.
Now, did you hang around with guys like Rich Green or Scott Watson and some of those Indianapolis sports minister types?
Yeah, so Scott actually hired me for my first position at
So
South.
see, we got to blame Scott.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll just be one of the many things that we blame Scott for, by the way.
Yes, he
All
can
right.
take it though. Yeah, and so let me think. Rich Green. There are a few other guys in those circles. The unfortunate thing when I moved to Indianapolis was there was a really strong core group of CSRM members here in the city who were all kind of transitioning out as I was coming in.
Yeah.
And I think just that new group of rookies, if you will, we weren't able to form as strong of connections. But yeah, there were just some great guys who really laid the foundation of sports ministry here in the city.
Well, obviously, some of those guys have gone on into some other areas, and we may even reference back to this and what were some of our future discussion here, because they very much, I think, benefited from some of the things that you're saying is important for people to get that counsel, to get that wisdom, to find that, as you said, Jason said to you, you got to know you got this call. And I know that Scott's done just a wonderful job as he's moved into the counseling world. Just been very, very immensely helpful to so many people. And Rich, of course, has moved on into Texas and continued to move into some different circles within church work there. And they're both dear brothers. We love them, and they've done so much for our whole sports outreach community. And we're just thankful that in some ways they kind of paved the way for you. You got involved in this. You were learning that you needed to create a team. You needed to move things to other people, not just yourself. Was that kind of where some of this more recent transition had its roots for you? That how do you really train those leaders? How do you really inspire them to the next level and prepare them? Was that some of what happened in that transition?
It was a little bit of that. I mean, I certainly found joy in empowering others. We had one guy in particular on my leadership team who, he started as a soccer coach, coached basketball as well, and then just through the natural leadership he was displaying, I invited him to be a director, gave him a little bit more responsibility there. Eventually came onto my leadership team and just had such a passion for sports ministry, actually felt called into vocational ministry himself and ended up taking a position with a local church down the road, which, is interesting because a lot of people might see that as competition. And I remember, some people in our program even like kind of joking, like, oh, he's going to the enemy. And I was like, no, this is a kingdom win. I mean, we had a guy just kind of move up into leadership, and now he's taking the discipleship principles we're doing here and he's applying them in another part of the city, and I'll celebrate that all day.
Absolutely.
And I think to add one more thought with your question, really I came close to burnout 3 times in 13 years of sports ministry. And they were each for different reasons, and yet a common theme was just overwhelm of just all the responsibility that comes with serving in ministry. Because what people don't realize, like if you don't work in the church, you don't understand that pastors are really doing 2 jobs, if not more. And so for sports pastors, as you know, they're running sports leagues. They're doing the job of a sports director like you would at a YMCA or Parks and Rec, but they're also doing hospital visits. They're also teaching and training people how to share the gospel. Sometimes they're being asked to give sermons, on rotation.
Yes.
They're doing the work of a minister in addition to their job title, if you will. And so it just wears on you. And I thankfully was put in touch with someone who coached me through some of those life challenges and ministry challenges. And I think that was really my heart and my passion was I want to equip the equippers, so to speak, because there are too many pastors who are burning out. And the longer we can keep these people serving faithfully in ministry in a healthy way, the better that is for everybody.
I love it. I love it. We're coming down to like the last couple of minutes in this segment, and we thank people for joining in on us. And Weston, people will put this on their headphones as they're commuting to work or on their elliptical or whatever they're working out on. And sometimes they'll sit and watch in front of their computer. And if you are listening in and you don't see the video part of this, you may want to just go back and catch the front or the end of these on the video, because there are connection points there that are going to be graphics that you can't obviously see if you're just listening in. But we're going to continue to talk about this whole area of sports rec and fitness ministers needing some input into their own life. You just heard Weston talk about being burned out 3 times in 13 years, I think he said. And that's not all that unusual. And there are some things here that we really think are important. And we're going to talk about them. And we're going to talk about 3 different kind of areas. And these are more my words or terminologies right now than Weston's, but he'll fill in his perspective on them. And that is that we all have these 3 areas of need: a spiritual director, somebody who can help us go deeper into the scriptures, deeper with Jesus, our own spiritual walk. And then we need that ministry mentor, that person who has been there, does what we do. They've lined and mowed the fields and swept the gym floor and had to recruit leaders and coaches and deal with senior pastors and elders and finance boards and all that kind of stuff. How do we do our ministry? And then a third one is just life coaching. And how do we deal with all the things that come to us in our life? So we're gonna touch on some of those things as we go forward, and we're going to exit out of this one right now, but then come back and join us next time, and Weston will be sharing his insights on those things, some of the benefits for you, and also maybe some of the things that you can avoid that are not so beneficial if you get involved in some of these things. And also a little bit about how he personally can help you in those areas. So, Weston, thanks for being with us, and we look forward to this next version of our podcast. Thanks for being with us here.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.